So are you trying to tell me that you've gone from being an executive producer of a government TV station to managing people's cars?
How many posts makes you visible?
14 times a day. How many videos it takes before someone says, "Oh, I've seen your video."
No, I'm not.
Just guess.
1,000?
Okay, not that many.
Hello, everyone. And today we have with us Reim El Houni, who is CEO of Dubai On Demand and TI22 Films. Dubai On Demand creates content to help individuals and brands grow digitally. The TI22 is a video production company in Dubai, and she's also an executive producer in Dubai One TV. Reim El Houni, welcome to Million Opinions.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I'm super excited. You are someone who has a lot of experience in helping individuals and brands build, grow digitally, and that makes me a bit nervous.
No, don't be nervous. It's going to be fun.
So tell us your story, Reim. How long have you been in the UAE?
God, tell you my story. That's quite a big word, story. But I have been in Dubai for about 16 and a half years. I can't honestly say I ever thought I'd be here this long, but Dubai is definitely home. And I'm just someone who is truly, truly obsessed with the world of video, film, TV, content. It's been an obsession since I was a child. And I guess I'm just very, very fortunate to be able to live my passion every day. So my goal in life is just to keep creating content and hopefully add value and help people grow their visibility through that content as well.
I do enjoy your posts. They're very detailed. I mean, the picture does speak 1,000 words, but you also have your captions and you give a lot of tips to everybody. I like the November, a very different approach. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I have come to a place now where I've realized that the power of social media really helps you connect with people in a way that you probably never would have otherwise. So I've really embraced it. I've decided that, people do business with people they know. And one of the best ways for them to know you is if you express your thoughts. And I really do use, especially my LinkedIn platform or Instagram, to share, my opinions, my thoughts on different topics. And obviously, the more value you can add, then more people are going to engage with that content and want to come back and read and listen and learn from you. So my LinkedIn definitely is a space where on a daily basis, I'm very conscious of what I put out there. And some of it is educational in terms of video content, because I really, really believe that we're in an era where people need to grow their visibility. I often tell people, if you're not visible, you're invisible. And I believe that really strongly because I'm someone who, whether for cultural reasons, like I'm Arab, I'm from Libya, I'm female, and, growing up, it didn't always seem acceptable to be putting yourself out there on camera or posting so publicly. But I've reached that point where I've understood that, this is not a vanity play. This is actually about your growth. It's about your business growth. It's about making connection. It's about adding value to people. So I've managed to get myself out of my comfort zone and do that. And because I've been able to do it, I know it's possible for everyone out there. So I'm very conscious about providing tips and education to other business owners, CEOs, business professionals who just need to start to embrace their knowledge and get more visible. And sometimes the posts that I put out there are a bit more educational or a bit more reflective because I'm going through my own entrepreneurial journey and learning as well. I love learning. I am a lifelong learner. I'm constantly attending conventions and learning from other people. And some things really resonate with me on a day-to-day basis. And I feel, when you put it out there, it resonates with others. And that helps you grow a community. So commenting on November, yes, I did recently post something about the month being November. And now's your opportunity to really focus on your goals. And one of the best ways for you to do that is to start saying no. Something we're not all very good at, but just putting that post out. So many people resonated with it, and it just goes to show you're not really alone. When you put that material out and people engage, you connect with people in a very different way. People do connect with video content more than they do any other kind of content. So it's in your interest to start producing video content. So I produce one professional video per week. I try and produce other video content during the week. Often it's stuff that's done more informally, done on my phone, because I do think there's a place for that as well. I think people connect with you in a very different way when it's a bit more natural, a bit more authentic. But if you're working with brands, you're working with corporates, you do need to show the polished professional side as well. So it's a balance of both, but ultimately, I personally would say at least once a day helps you maintain that visibility. Most people post one video and then obviously all their friends and family like it and they all feel like warm and fuzzy inside. And then they post a second one and less people like it because they've seen the first one. And they post a third one and then it goes quiet. And by the fourth time, they're like, oh, this isn't working. This isn't working for me anymore. By week 5, you're lucky they're still posting. So it's about the consistency. The more visible you are, the more consistent you are putting content out, that's when you start to see results. And I'm afraid that not that many people wait to that point, to that tipping point, which is normally around week 12, which is month 3. So if you don't have patience in this game, then you're not going to gain the visibility that you need.
Your advice to someone who wants to be an influencer or someone in the media industry, sorry?
I think those are two very different things. So I'm not a big fan of the word influencer. I think, at least for me, I would consider myself a thought leader. I really, I've been in this industry a long time. I would consider myself an expert in this field. And I do have knowledge to share. And I think everyone out there has knowledge to share. So it's really about embracing your knowledge and packaging it in a way that adds value to others. So the key tip is to just start. Don't underestimate the value that you have. And I see that often. People go, why would I post this? It's already out there. People can Google this information. Yeah, but it's not coming from your perspective. And I've worked with so many people who, they shy away from putting content out there because they feel it's oversaturated. But actually, there's a place for their voice. We worked with this lady, Lucy Chow. She's quite popular in the investment space in the UAE. And I remember when we started working with her, she's like, Reem, why would people want to watch my content? If anyone wanted to learn anything about investment, they'd just Google it. I said, fair enough. There's a lot of information out there, but how much of it is coming from a Chinese female living in the UAE with your experience? That's a very unique voice. And I think everyone needs to understand that you have a unique voice, which is going to relate to someone. Someone out there is going to resonate with you more than they are X person living in another continent. So it's always worth embracing your knowledge, embracing where you are, and putting that content out. I think something else that I learned is there's always someone behind you in the journey. So stop looking at those ahead of you in the journey and start adding value to those behind you in the journey. Wherever you are, there's someone who hasn't started yet, and they could learn from your experience. You've obviously gone through trials, tribulations in whatever industry. There's someone there who's trying to now start to do the exact same thing that you can help. So stop over-analyzing, there are all these experienced people out there. Sure, but how many people could you be helping with your experience who are behind you in the journey? So I'm going to start by maybe explaining how I got into the industry. Sure. Because I really think that there are a lot of lessons in that for people who want to break in. So I'm a big believer in persistence, and I'm a big believer in knocking all the doors you can, especially in media. Media is a very competitive world. So for me, what I did is I used to watch all of my favorite TV shows, and at the time record them on VHS tape, and I'd sit down and I'd play them back and I'd write down all of the names in the credits of the TV shows that I wanted to work on. So, when you're watching the end show, I'd write down all of those names. And I knew that places like the BBC were firstname.surname@bbc.co.uk. And I just emailed everybody. And I just kept doing it. Watching shows, writing names, emailing. And eventually I got some replies. And one reply I'll never forget came from a very popular BBC show called BBC Watchdog. If you grew up in the UK, this was a show that we all watched on a weekly basis. And the excitement to realize that my email resulted in this internship. And I remember my first day in BBC Watchdog and being so excited that I was finally in the BBC. And just being part of that environment and realizing how much access I have as an intern and how to build on that. So BBC Watchdog was very popular. So they had a rotation of interns. And so again, I remember my last day on Watchdog, and I thought, oh my God, this is my last day. How do I stay? How do I stay in this building? I was holding my BBC pass going, I don't want to give this pass up. I literally walked from department to department to department in that building. I literally walked and went, hi, I'm an intern on Watchdog. It's my last day, so I'm available. And, you know, I'd go one department to the next. I'm like, oh, sorry, we don't have anything. Oh, sorry. And I think it was around department 8 where it was BBC Education. I went, hi, I'm an internal watchdog and it's my last day. And I'm ready to do anything. And they said, oh, can you research? I'm like, yep, I can research. I said, great. Well, we're starting a new series and we're looking for a researcher. I'm like, I'm your researcher. And I literally started the next day as a researcher. And what I want to share with people is that opportunity wouldn't have come had I not taken action to go and knock on those doors. My internship at Watchdog wouldn't have come had I not taken action and just emailed and bombarded the planet. And honestly, my internship with BBC Education ended up lasting just over 2 years. So I was at university and I was at the BBC at the same time. I was at university 2 days a week and I was at BBC 3 days a week. And that was an amazing starting kind of launch pad for my career. And by the time I was 18, I already had my name on a TV show that had my name on the credits. But if I really look at it, it's the persistence and the action. And that lesson has lived with me, and every big shift in my life till now has happened in that way. It's because I've seen something and I've taken massive action and made it happen. And so I'm a big believer that whatever stage you are, if you're trying to get to that next level, you're trying to push through to this industry, you have to do that. And also once you have that opportunity, it's making the most out of it, making yourself so invaluable that the producers want to keep you. So the producer I worked with at BBC Education kept me on that show for two years, called me back a year later for another show. And it's all relationships. If you put the time in and you build those relationships, people will remember you and people will bring you back. And I see, unfortunately, I don't always see that in interns today. Unfortunately, I see people who come and go and like are very casual about it, and those aren't people I want to keep. You know, you want to keep people who really value the opportunity and go out of their way to make it work and add value to you.
Do you see internships in the same way that's there in the UK, in UAE at the moment?
Yes and no. I think, you know, in my organization, we take a lot of interns in because I believe in it. I really, really believe that that's how you start. You learn, you try everything you can, you see where your strengths are. And it's a great way for me to actually, it's a great recruitment funnel, because when I see strong interns, those are the people who have put the time and put the effort in that are worth me investing in to bring them on full time in our organization. So I think it's a mindset. Not every employer is going to think that way. And I think there are organizations that can support you in recruiting interns. I know we mentioned YSpot when we were talking off camera. They're a great platform that can support you if you're an organization that's looking to start getting interns in, because they also bring a very different energy and a very different perspective. So I do believe in it. Having said that, I'm also seeing sometimes when students graduate, they don't always have that mindset. They always think they can go straight into a high-powered position, and they're not ready to put the time and work in and work their way up. And in the media industry, it's built on a ladder. The media industry, most people start in what we call runner positions. And the reason you're a runner is because you're expected to run. You know, you literally turn around and go, oh, send a runner to run and fetch that. Send a runner to bring this. And the mindset here isn't always open to those kind of tasks or that entry level, whereas the industry is. So if you're expecting to grow in this industry, you need to be ready to start at the bottom, work your way up and do anything. So it always comes down, my key message is always be ready to do anything and be persistent about it. And if you've got those two qualities, you will succeed.
Well, Reem, you are wearing a lot of hats. You're a CEO and you're an executive producer, and you also manage time for your posts. Do you post 12 to 14 times a day?
No. I'm nowhere near that. I still post once a day on LinkedIn, once on Instagram. But that's also because in my head, it's shifted to the business development bucket. You know, so I don't really see it as, I'm not, passing time. It's not just me, casually kind of just viewing other people's feed. It is strategic. It is a case of what can I post today that is either going to showcase what we're doing as a company or share, get people to get to know me a little bit better, because then they're going to connect with me very differently. So a lot of my posts, there is quite a bit of thought that goes into it. So as a result, for me personally, I post once a day.
You also work with a lot of celebrities as well. How do you make time for yourself?
I believe in vision boards. I'll start with that. So I believe in it so much that I actually taught myself and run vision board workshops every so often, because the power of really knowing what you want in life, listing it out, and then visualizing it in a vision board, I think takes things to a whole other level. So I believe in that so fully, but it's not just the visualization. It's then what is the action that you take to actually bring these things to life. So because I have a vision board, I then also have a list of goals, and I look at how am I going to achieve them all. So I start my year by looking at all of those goals and breaking it down and looking at, okay, if I'm going to achieve this by the end of the year, that means this month I need to do 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll start my month planning those things. And I actually put time in. There's time in my calendar blocked every weekend, which is labeled scheduling time. And I literally sit there and I look at, what did I do this past week to get closer to my goals? And if I haven't done everything I'm meant to, how do I schedule those things in the following week? So I'm very strategic about how I schedule my time and how I block periods of time. And I really think that's the only way you can get as much as I do done. Because I do have so many hats. I've got, as you mentioned earlier, I executive produce a daily TV show. I've got my company that I run. I'm very involved in networking organizations. People who know me know I'm a regional consultant for BNI New Dubai. That takes a lot of time. And I do a lot of other things, podcasts and speaking and training and all of those things to grow my visibility as well. So the only way it works is if you strategically sit there with your calendar, block periods of time, but also to make sure you're blocking time for the things that move your goals forward. And that's where November comes in. It gets very easy for every request that comes in for you to be like, yes, 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 yes. And then you get to the end of the month, I'm like, did I actually achieve all the goals that I was meant to? And often it's not the case if you've said yes to everything else. So it's learning what to say no to and learning how to prioritize the time and the goals that you want to achieve. So I often tell people it's not about prioritizing your schedule, it's about scheduling your priorities.
Well, I'm glad you said yes to us.
Yes, thank you.
Reem, talk to us about your training. You had a boot camp last year.
We launched something a few years ago called Level Up. And the purpose of Level Up was really because I was working with so many CEOs who are experts in their field, who, if you were to meet them, you would think these are the most confident senior people I've ever come across. And then the minute they get on camera, something happens and they just don't know how to communicate anymore. Or they just don't know how to structure their message. So it felt really important to help them overcome that fear. And I felt, I mentioned earlier that I went through that journey. So I spent years behind the camera. My whole industry is behind the camera. It's only really the last 5 years or so that I pushed myself to get in front of it. And I know what that's like. I know what it's like when you have to overcome that fear and just become the face of your business. Because ultimately, people do business with people. And I came across another statistic recently, which is apparently people are 73% more likely to do business with a company if they're following the CEO on social media. So the fact you being visible is important, and it gets even more interesting. I think it's as high as they're 66% more likely to do business with you if they've watched you on video. So those statistics are high. So when I work with people, they're like, oh, do I really need to be in front of the camera? I'm like, well, it's your choice. But if you do go in front of the camera, there's a 66% higher chance that people will want to do business with you. So it's no longer a nice to have. It's something that you now have to do. So with Level Up, that's a workshop I'm really proud of, because we see a group of CEOs or business professionals come in and they're all really nervous and they're apprehensive and they just, they fear the camera. And in one weekend, we help them overcome that fear. We help them structure their message. We give them some confidence tips. We train them on how to present on camera. We film them and edit a video. So in the space of a weekend, they see themselves on camera, and that's a huge transformation for many. I've had people cry in that experience because they never thought that they could do it. So having seen how Level Up had worked, I knew there was a space for other transformations. And obviously, we mentioned that I exec produce a TV show. The number one person who messages me right now are potential TV presenters. There are a lot of TV presenters out there, whether they're experienced or not, who see the potential in being on camera and really want that break. But there aren't that many opportunities here in television, let alone to train in television. So, there's certain skills you need. It's learning how to read from an auto cue or learning how to handle someone speaking in your ear. So I decided last summer that I would create a workshop. I called it On Air. It's the On Air Bootcamp, the ultimate TV studio presenter bootcamp. And it went really, really well. And it was just fascinating to see how much talent there is in this city, how many people aspired to be on television and just never had the break or never had a chance to learn these skills. So yeah, it's something we're going to continue doing. We've got another one coming up soon. So yeah, just watch out for our on-air bootcamp if you're someone who's always wanted to be a TV presenter and missing some studio experience, or our level up workshop if you're a CEO who just needs to overcome that camera fear and start putting content out there.
You've also worked with some big Hollywood movies. Can you tell us more about that?
I am going to tell you about the one big Hollywood movie that I did work on, because I do think there's a lesson there in terms of how I got that opportunity. And it all comes down to the same thing. It comes down to persistence and massive action. So if anyone takes anything out of this podcast, it's be persistent and take massive action. But yeah, I was an executive producer at Dubai One. I was in-house, and I'd made a decision that I was going to leave the TV station and pursue other opportunities. And I remember it so clearly because it was my last day. It was my last day at the TV station. And someone said to me, "Did you hear Mission Impossible is going to be filming in Dubai?" And I was like, Mission Impossible filming in Dubai? It's like, I have to be on this, It's like I've been obsessed with film and TV since I was a kid. I actually even used to manage my local video store when I was at university. So that's how obsessed I am. So the idea of being able to work on a Hollywood movie was just, I had to be on it. So my last day, and I remember it was a Thursday. So Friday, at the time, the weekend was Friday, Saturday. Friday, I fixed my CV and I rang everyone I knew in the industry. And I literally just went phone call to phone call. Like, "Hi, do you know anyone working on Mission Impossible? Hi, do you know anyone working on Mission Impossible?" And eventually, a friend of mine who's a creative director was like, "Oh yeah, I do actually. I know the production manager and she's coming to dinner tomorrow night." I'm like, I am coming to dinner. So I self-invited myself to this dinner that took place the following day. So we're now on Saturday. Saturday, I'm at this dinner. And when you're sitting at a dinner and you're sort of thinking, oh, like, I need to get my break in. I have to be able to pitch myself somewhere in this dinner. And I'm sitting there silently. And eventually my friend says, "Oh, Reem has just left a position at Dubai One, so she's available." And I went, "Yes, and I will do anything." And the production manager said, "Oh, well, we've hired everyone." And I was like, no, I will do anything. And she said, "Well, we may have a vacancy in transport. I will do transport, no problem." She's like, "Are you sure?" Because I was an executive producer. So it's considered a bit of a drop to go from being an executive producer to managing transport. I'm like, "Yes, I will do transport. I'm happy to do transport." "You're going to have an interview." "No problem. I will go to an interview." So next day was a Sunday. I went to the interview. I interviewed with the head of transport. And, I was overqualified, but I was like, and they're like, "You sure you want to do this?" I'm like, "I want to do this." So I got the position. So come Monday, I started as a transport coordinator on Mission Impossible 4. And, it was such an amazing experience because my whole purpose behind doing this was to learn. I hadn't worked on a feature film before. I'd worked on a lot of TV shows, TV content, worked with different channels, and obviously the corporate side as well. But movies, Hollywood movies, that's a whole other world. And in my mind, that's a dream, So the fact that I was now working on one, it didn't really matter what my role was. It was just, I was there to learn. And the biggest lesson I learned, they were only filming in Dubai for about 3 months, is that it gave me that confidence to realize that I can do this. Like seeing everything from the inside, I realized that everything was just a matter of scale. So I'm used to producing TV shows where I have a team of 40 people. Here, they have a team of 400 people, but it's the exact same process, the exact same logistics. And I came out of that experience feeling really, really confident and ready for my next adventure. It does sound crazy. Why would I go from being an executive producer of a TV station to managing transport? But for me, the lessons I learned on that movie gave me the confidence for my next chapter. And I wouldn't take it back for anything.
What I see from this is, Reem, you've told me the story when you were an intern. You have the same enthusiasm when you were an intern and then also after being an executive producer to just follow your dreams. That's amazing. That enthusiasm never went down, did it?
But I think the key part to this is knowing what your dreams are, which is why I mentioned the vision board earlier. Yep. I really believe in that because I think so many people, you ask them, what do you want to achieve in life? Or what's your dream? And they don't have the answer. Like, I think I want to work less. What does that mean? There must be a client you want to work with, a project you want to achieve, a role you want to have, a place you want to visit. Then you must have those bucket list items in your life. So I think a big part of it is identifying what those are. Identify them so that you can work towards achieving them. So for me, an Oscar is on my board. I will, one day soon, you will see me at the Academy Awards winning an Oscar. Because that's on my vision board, I'm now very conscious of the steps I take and the action I need to take to get there. If it wasn't there and it wasn't a goal, then you're kind of aimless in this path. So that's why I really believe in the vision boards, in the vision setting, in the goal setting, and doing it consistently. In fact, I do it with my team. I believe in it so much that I've run vision board sessions for my team because I want them to have their own vision. And many of them, in the beginning, they all get very frustrated when I introduce these new initiatives, and then they realize, this is worthwhile. So they all have their own vision boards. And then we did a company vision board because I also realized that I'm not going to achieve all these things on my own. It's a team effort. So the best way is to really understand what makes everyone tick, what's going to excite everyone, and how can I incorporate that into our company vision board? Because if they're now excited by the company vision, then we're all working on it together. So it's identifying the goal and then getting other people along with you, especially if your goals are as big as some of mine, then, it's not a solo game. It's how much can you get other people involved, and also telling people, because this is the other thing I don't understand. People have goals and they don't share them. I'm like, how is anyone going to help you achieve this goal if you don't share it with anybody? I want everyone to know I'm planning to get an Oscar, right? It's on my path, right? So because people know that, whenever they hear, of an opportunity to do with a feature film, I get a phone call. They're like, Reem wants to do this, right? I'm not sure how much I should say about this, but I'm obsessed with Shark Tank. I'm very obsessed with this show. It's been on my vision board for like 12 years. And about a year ago, I saw a random post on LinkedIn where someone mentioned that they were bringing Shark Tank to the UAE. That was it. That was like, it's on my board. I've seen it. I'm going after this. I literally took that post, sent it around a whole bunch of people. Does anyone know this person? Right, because this is on my board. This is happening. So eventually had a couple of people who knew the person, found a few LinkedIn connections in common, messaged the person, WhatsApp the person, ended up doing a Zoom call with them. And then the way things have transpired, it turned out that it was an Arabic Shark Tank, but it also turned out that it's being produced by DMI, which is where DXB Today is produced. So I've now, the minute I knew that, messaged the head of the channel, like, I can do this. I want to do this in English, right? So that conversation is ongoing. Nothing is finalized at this point, but in my head, it's happened. In my head, I'm doing everything I can in my power to make it happen, because I think that's the other thing. You need to do everything in your power. I have no issue turning around. If for whatever reason it doesn't work and it doesn't happen, I need to know that I've done everything in my power to make it happen. And if you've done everything in your power to make it happen, then khalas, like it's out of my hands at this point. But I don't want to turn around and regret not having made a phone call, not having sent an email, not having followed up somewhere, when that could have been the change and that could have been the actual act to bring my vision to life. So it all comes down, again, persistence and massive action, and then the rest is out of your hands.
Well, we wish you all the best for the Oscars and
Thank
for the
you.
Shark Tank.
Thank you.
Do you want to tell us a little bit more about your company's vision?
Sure. I mean, for me, it's a case of, we've done, thankfully, very well with government projects, with a lot of large-scale productions. We did the daily TV show for Expo, which was outstanding. We worked with COP, which was great. So I'm always looking at the next level. So for me, company vision, Expo 2025 in Japan, that's where I'm seeing us. So anyone out there, we're the team for you, but also looking to work more with OTT platforms. So we've got a number of shows that we have conceptualized and we'd love to see them on Netflix, on Apple, on Amazon. So that for me is the next stage in terms of where our productions are going to go.
So sometimes when we take videos, we do many kind of edits. Oh, this is not good, or that's not good. What would be your tip?
So I've got quite a few tips. I think ultimately, think about it. What is the first thing you look at when someone sends you a video? What's the first thing you look at?
The thumbnail.
The thumbnail? Interesting. Most people look at the duration. So I look at the duration.
Yes, that one too.
Right?
Yes.
So I look at the duration. And I think that people don't have as much time as you think they do. So especially if you're trying to grab someone's attention, you want to keep it short. So for me, when I get sent something, I look at the duration. If it's under a minute, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll press play. If it's over a minute, I can't be bothered. And I know many people who won't press that button. So you want to overcome that objection and start by creating really short content. So most of my videos are under a minute long because I want to grab your attention. But I have to make sure it's a really valuable minute. So in that minute, I need to teach you something. You need to walk away having learned something that hopefully you can implement. If you've learned something, you're going to keep coming back, right? So a lot of my videos are the 1 tip to or 3 tips how, because I want you to learn. And also if you look at Google, most people type in how to or how do I. So you want to be able to answer people's questions. So a great tip is to look at the frequently asked questions that you receive. How can you answer those questions in a very succinct 1-minute format so that people gain value from you? The other type of content that does very well, so educational content does very well, entertainment does very well. I'm typically not so strong at entertainment. Some people might be, so you can lean in on that. But I'd go with one of those two, and education is much easier to achieve. So think about the how-tos, think about the duration. You mentioned the thumbnail. Thumbnails are valid because, believe it or not, if you've got your face on a thumbnail, there's a higher click-through rate, right? So people who are like, oh, I don't want to put my face on it. More people are going to click on the thumbnail if your face is on it. So it's also about looking at the benchmarks, looking at what works and trying to do that because you want to grow your reach. The other thing I would look at is just keeping it simple because so many people try and tell you so many things in a video. Like pick one key message, and that allows you to keep building content. You don't want to say everything you know in one video. I remember watching a video that an accountant did, which goes to show valid for every industry. An accountant, it was so short. She literally said, are you trying to save money? Have you ever thought of how many platforms you're subscribed to? Go into your inbox, just do a search for where you're subscribed. And if you don't need something, unsubscribe and you'll notice how much you save. That's all she said, right? And it made me think. Oh, let me go into how many things am I subscribed to? I'm sure I'm subscribed to loads of things I don't need. Let me start unsubscribing. It was such a simple tip that I got from that video that I followed her. And then I started listening to more of her tips. And the key is you want people to follow you and get these tips. And then once they're invested in you, they will tune into your podcast. They will watch the longer content. They will subscribe to your webinar. But to get someone's attention, you need to do it through short form, quick content, which is why even podcasts like this will have a teaser, because you're trying to grab people's attention with the teaser and then they'll come in and watch the long form. And I think too many people get it wrong. They try and put everything they know in like that short video and I'm overwhelmed. There's too much messaging. Keep it simple, keep it short, work on attracting people, and then eventually they will subscribe to your long form content. And something I actually learned from the world of networking, from BNI specifically, is VCP. So the more visible you are, so you need to be consistent, be visible, and then be credible. So make sure you're adding value, add value, be credible. And then eventually, when people are ready to pay you, work for you, that's when the profitability kicks in, because they've seen you, they've heard you, they've seen you, they've heard you, they rely on you that, oh, I actually need their service. And then they'll call you for an inquiry. So it's a long game, but it all starts with being smart with the content you put out there, being visible, being short, and sharing one key message.
Your message to the youngsters, Reem, who want to or aspire to be on TV or the radio?
Honestly, it all starts with internships. Like I know I've just said it, but I really believe in that. I think it's a win-win situation. You get the opportunity to experience what it's like to be in a production office or in a TV studio and learn as much as you can. In some cases, you might learn it's not for you. You might discover that, certain areas you have more strength in than others. I actually, when I was at university, was quite strong at camera work. So I remember my instructor telling me, oh, I can see you being a director of photography or a cinematographer. You've got that skill. And so that sat in my head and I was like, I'm going to do this. I can be a camera woman. Until I went and did an internship in the camera department of the London studios. I was with them for a summer. It was the hardest work I'd ever done. I hadn't realized how physical it was going to be. Sort of like carrying the cameras, I actually, just to put this in perspective, I was a cable basher. Do you know what a cable basher is? Not many people do. So a cable basher is the person who, you've got the camera person, and then behind the camera person, you've got the camera assistant, and behind the camera assistant, you've got the cable basher, and they're carrying all the cables. So that if the camera person has to run, you spool the cable, and if they run back, you spool the cable back in. And I just did that for a summer. It was exhausting. And I came out of that thinking, I'm not sure I want to do this, although from university, I thought that would be the area I would excel in. So the point I'm trying to make is, unless you go and try these things, you don't always know if it's going to be the right fit. And I think internships are a great way for you to try, learn. And if you find that opportunity that clicks, do whatever you can to make sure that you're memorable so that they want to employ you and keep working with you.